The family of a New Zealander who was on board the cattle ship which sunk in the South China Sea says they've received information that survivors may still be found. Lochie Bellerby is a herd manager on board the Gulf Lifestock 1 and has not been located since the ship hit a typhoon last week. The Japanese Coast Guard has called off its full-time search, with 40 crew members still unaccounted for. Lochie's father, Guy Bellerby, joins me now. Good evening, Guy. It must be an incredibly tough week for your family, so thank you so much for speaking to us this evening. What can you tell us is the latest information?
Well, the latest information we have heard has come from the interview with one of the surviving Filipinos, and we hadn't heard this interview up until last night, and we've been in contact with Australian friends, and what has come to light is that he was washed overboard as everyone was preparing to get into a lifeboat. Now, there's 4 life rafts missing and 1 lifeboat missing. So, and there's also been, in the whole search area, after picking up 2 survivors and another Filipino who has since died, then we expect to either find bodies or other debris that would indicate where the other survivors, where the other sailors were, and there's been nothing. So we're hoping that they're all in that lifeboat somewhere or on a life raft because they're not unaccounted for.
So, Guy, when the surviving crew member says they were preparing to get into those life rafts and boat, does he mean everyone was up on deck, or have you had any information about that?
Everyone was mustered into the the bridge, and they'd taken a roll call, and they were preparing to get. Everyone had their life jackets on, and they were preparing to get into the lifeboat, and when this fella was washed overboard. That's as far as what we know. And then with the debris and whatever that's been found, the other lifeboat's been found. It was damaged with no one in it. And so there's 1 lifeboat missing. So we are hoping that whole crew has got into that. And the Japanese have done an amazing job searching and finding the 2 survivors so far. But we wonder, with all the winds and the tides and the currents, whether the search should be further afield. And there's lots of uninhabited islands in this area that are quite leafy, so it's not like a desert island with 1 tree on it. And we are hoping that they could be on one of these islands or bobbing about in the China Sea without being found yet. It's a large area, and they could be 1,000 kilometres away by now. So we don't know, which is why we would like the search to be recommenced on a wider scale.
So what communication are you getting from New Zealand authorities, and how can they help you with this? Because obviously the Japanese Coast Guard has called off its full-time search. So what's being done at the New Zealand end?
I'll hand you over to Lucy, actually, because she's been more onto this than me. Here she is.
Thank you, Guy.
Hello.
Hi, Lucy. So Lucy joins me now, and Lucy's Lochie's mum. So, Lucy, what's been happening at the New Zealand end with authorities? How are they helping?
They've been a tremendous help up until now. We've had MFAT who have been corresponding with the Japanese Coast Guard. So we feed any information that the Japanese Coast Guard has on hand to MFAT and then to ourselves and the family of the other New Zealander. We've also been in touch with, we're also in correspondence with Maritime New Zealand, who also rings us daily. So any questions we have had, we put to them, and they come back with information as fast as they can.
Can they help you get the search fired back up again?
I'm unclear about this. I've talked to MFAT today, and we were just gathering more details. We have a marine specialist helping us at the moment, so we needed more information. For example, coordinates of where the distress signal was, where the survivors were picked up, etc. So we've been mapping where these whatever has been found with the drift rate, where any more survivors, raft or boat, could have ended up. So I'm actually unsure. I've got the contact for the weekend for MFAT, Foreign Affairs. I actually don't know. This is our next big question. With the information that we now know, where do we go next?
Have you had any conversations with the Prime Minister or the Foreign Minister?
No, not to date.
So would you like the New Zealand government's help to get a search going again?
We definitely would. There's 40 people out there unaccounted for, and we're doing this not just for us on Lochie, who we would so dearly love home, as any parent could imagine when you lose or have a son missing at sea. We're doing this for the other family of the other New Zealand family, the 2 Australian families, and also for all those Filipino families who we all have sons missing at sea. We're doing it for everybody. We would love some help, and I know the Australians are starting to make a small move. So this is all just starting. Momentum's just starting today. We would really appreciate any support we can get from the government, or they come to us.
So, Lucy, when was the last time you heard from Lochie?
The day that his ship went missing. The day that his ship went missing, about 10 hours beforehand. One of the family had heard from him a bit more recently, that maybe 6 hours beforehand. They had internet on board, so he was messaging us.
And what was he saying about what was going on at that point?
He was talking about the sea conditions and how rough it was. And also he was describing how the tilt of the boat which was 35 degrees, which is indicating it was very rough. His spirits were fairly high. He was tucking himself into a space where he wasn't thrown around so much, so he could get some rest. It was nighttime, so they had been told to go and get some rest, and the distress signal, of course, was alerted at about 1:30 in the morning. So a lot of them had some rest before the distress signal went out.
So is Lochie experienced at sea? Was this his first trip, or?
Yeah, this was his first ocean adventure, yep. But okay. He has experienced in the water, but the sea, this was his first sea adventure. He's very experienced in rivers and in lakes.
And so his job, what was his job on the boat?
It was like animal health herd manager. So he was responsible for going around and checking all the stock. And if any of the stock looked anything unwell, he would then report back to the vets who would go and check that out. So they did many daily checks on the animal welfare.
Did Lochie, in the contact you had with him, did he express any concerns about, prior to the day that the ship went missing, did he express any concerns about the condition of the Gulf Lifestock 1 or the crew or the way that ship was being run?
He didn't, no. He was really enjoying the experience and the people he was meeting on board. He's a very confident boy. He always takes everything in his stride. Like, if he comes up against a problem, he just keeps on stepping up. So if he was getting anything, any concern, he wouldn't have transferred it to us. He only described the sea conditions as being how they were very large. No, he didn't.
Okay, so on that last communication that you had from him, was there any indication that they would need to leave the ship or that things were getting to a critical point?
No, there wasn't.
Okay. Is he, well, he sounds pretty resourceful. Would that be fair, Lucy?
Oh, extremely resourceful. Yep, very. And and he's also very encompassing. He's very good at looking after people around him. Pulling people through situations which have unexpected situations. I've been with him before like this, and he's amazing. People look towards him as a leader.
Have you had an opportunity to talk to any of the Australian families?
No, we haven't.
Okay. So if right now you could speak to the government, you could speak to the Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern and the Foreign Minister Winston Peters, tell us right now what you want from the government.
We're really pleading for the government to step up and help the Japanese Coast Guard, who have been really awesome so far and have had to scale back their search. We really ask New Zealand to go and step in and go and help the Japanese Coast Guard and search for areas which we are starting to identify may have been missed out in the Japanese search, although we actually don't know because we haven't got exact details of where the search was. With the Australians are starting to do the same, so maybe the two countries could join together. We've got 2 New Zealanders, 2 Australians out there and many more missing. Really plead for, on behalf of any New Zealand parent, mother, father, who have sons missing, children missing, to do this. So I think it would give New Zealanders so much hope. I think if we all knew that when things go wrong outside of our own countries, that the government has our backs.
So you actually want New Zealand resources to join the search on the ground?
If possible. I have no knowledge of what New Zealand has as resources, but definitely we need some sort of impetus now for New Zealand government to step up and look after and encourage a search. To resume the search with the Japanese Coast Guard, to maybe, I don't know what, maybe we've got access to an Orion to go and search some of these areas. Really not sure how it works. It's just, I'm totally out of my league.
You're desperate to get it going.
Done? Absolutely desperate. We've got like a 2 or 3 day window before, if they are in a life raft, before they're going to get very uncomfortable. They've been in a life raft now, if they are, whoever, they've been in there for 7 days. People can last in a life raft for quite some time, but they will be getting very uncomfortable now if they still are in a life raft or on a uninhabited island and maybe injured. And we've really got to help these boys.
Lucy, you're holding on to that hope, are you?
Oh, yes, most definitely. We have not given up.
I really appreciate your time this evening. Thank you for speaking to us. That is Lucy, and I was talking to Guy Bellerby earlier, the parents of Lochie Bellerby, who is the herd manager on board the Gulf Lifestock 1, and he hasn't been located since that ship was hit by a typhoon last week. They are appealing for help to get that search going again.